And then, thank you. And then Josie, we're going to go ahead and start with the technical updates.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a timeline that you guys have looked at before, but things are starting to be solidified. Our main consultant, CDM Smith, who's doing the sampling work, is like 95% of the way towards agreeing with the subcontractor to do the work. And so we have things like actual dates now. And the group that they are almost final, but not totally final with, is Gravity Marine, who's doing a lot of the other work out in the harbor. So this is good news for us. It's a contractor that's done a lot of the coring so far. And so they know what they're about out there. And we are looking right now at mobilizing out into the field on August 16th to start setting up, and then starting to pull cores on the 23rd of August. So you'll see those dates in the middle of the screen there. We think it's going to take about 5 weeks to pull all the cores. So that'll go until about September 20th. And then the other two big pieces of the sampling effort are going to be the beach sampling, the incremental sampling that we've talked about, and the riverbank sampling. So right now, based on tides, we are targeting either the week of September 13th or the week of September 20th for the incremental sampling on the beach. There's a few more details that need to be worked out. I need to talk with Kyle about what's happening on the beach those weeks and how we can make it work with other folks who are going to be using the park. And we also just need those final, all the signatures to dry on all the agreements to know when that's all going to happen for sure. And then the riverbank sampling, Laura, if you can go to the next slide. Some good news, we've had a little bit more money come in from EPA to fund this. And so we're going to hold off on the riverbank sampling until the end of September in hopes that we know we have enough money to turn more of those riverbank samples into deeper cores. So right now the plan, if you see these darker orange ones along the riverbank, those are slated to be 3-foot hand augers. And then these lighter yellow ones over in front of the BES lab are 10-foot cores that are going to be done from a geoprobe. We're hoping to turn the bulk of those 3-foot hand augers in front of Cathedral Park and in front of Markham into 10-foot cores. That would get us better data. And if we have the resources to do it, we want to do that. No matter what happens, Laura, if you can go over to the riverbank cores on the far downstream side, riverbank 1, 2, and 3.
Wait, which
ones? Are going to all the way down, all the way to the left. Go left.
Okay.
Yeah. Those ones? Yes, those ones.
Oh, they're right there. Got it.
Yeah. Just because of access to that area, those are going to remain 3-foot augers regardless. But the rest of the riverbank ones may be able to become 10-foot cores. So we're going to hold off and put that at the end in hopes that can work out. Just a little more.
Do you want to remind people just briefly like what you mean? So the auger, like what an auger is, just for folks who are newer.
It's basically like a manual drill. And 3 feet is kind of the extent that you can drive those tools manually, which is why if we're doing manual cores, we're limited to 3 feet. Whereas a geoprobe is actually it's a mechanical device that you drive it out on, like a skid steer type device, and it can drill much deeper than you can manually. That's the update on the schedule.
So there is a question from Cassie in the chat. Cassie, did you want to come off mute and ask that?
Not really a question, it's more of a
okay, just a comment. Okay. All right.
If someone from the city wants to, Jessica, I don't know, you probably can't speak about it, but I just, it's like, what, like if the city can do something now, I mean, because, it's not cool that we're having to have this conversation about compromising the integrity of the sampling now in this moment. It's just, because
Cassie, I don't think
funding.
It doesn't compromise the integrity. It might leave a data gap is the right way to think about it.
But data gap this early in the process is not ideal. I don't think.
It's not ideal, but it's manageable. All these RDs, all these remedial designs are being done with phases of field events.
And then what kind of message does it send to all the other parties that are doing remedial design?
Well, they're all putting off their riverbank sampling until a second phase of field work. So I don't think we need to worry about setting that as a precedent. I think that's one of the reasons that we're trying to, that we are going to make sure those upriver ones are definitely 10-foot cores, is because that really is part of the in-water sediment delineation. The other riverbank samples are more of a riverbank characterization effort. So we feel like we can move ahead with SMA delineation without getting those deeper results right now. But it would be, as long as we're out there and we could get them, it'd be a benefit to get them, is how we're thinking about it.
Thanks, Josie. And thanks for that comment, Cassie. It's helpful to kind of put it into perspective with the other work that's going on too. So thanks, Josie, for doing that. And then Laura had a question about air sampling for PCBs. And so Laura, thank you for continually, it's good that you keep on bringing that question, because we know it's a concern. And what we're looking at is because this work is sampling, so it's not, the actual dredging construction work that is going to be occurring during remedial action. And so what we're looking at with air sampling right now, and we actually had an internal discussion about this with our technical team just, I think, last week. We're talking about, how we can address that concern during the remedial action by, trying to do some air sampling during remedial action to, see, to actually help get that information on, like air sampling specifically for PCBs during at least the beginning of remedial action. So we're still talking about it internally, how that'll look, because it's a little bit, we have some time, but, time flies. So we're talking about it internally right now and want to have a better answer for you soon. I know that's been what we've been saying for a long time, but we really are thinking about it. But be clear, for this work, this is sampling work. It's not, dredging work. So there won't be air sampling for this. But for remedial action, we're looking into it.
Okay,
Alex?
thank you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thank you for bringing it up, but keep it on the radar.
You know I will. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you will. I know. It's good though, because I know it's a concern for a lot of folks too. Alex, I see your hand up.
Sure. Yeah, and at the risk of opening up a larger conversation than we've got time for here, I just wanted to. I was finally able to kind of do a little bit of digging around Cathedral Park, and I'm just wondering if the data from the Peninsula Ironworks site was considered during the planning of the investigation, specifically with the samples kind of going up the beach there. I know that's kind of gets into where DEQ takes over and where EPA's purview is, but it looks like there were some pretty decent PCB hits for soil samples, and one of them I'm looking at is looks like about 450 feet away from where the actual beach sampling is going to be taking place. So I'm just wondering if you guys have took those concentrations.
Where was the spot, Alex, you were asking?
Yeah, it is.
What's the name? Or sorry, what's the name of it?
Peninsula Ironworks, and it's on the corner of North Alta Avenue and North Bradford Street. You can't quite see it in the graphic that's up there now. Actually, if you let me share a screen, I could do that.
Yeah.
I don't know when I do that, but okay, let's see. Here we go. Oh, that is not the right one. Where is this? I'm sorry, I have far too many windows open.
I'm just relieved that I don't have to go scroll back through all my files and find that one graphic that shows all the source control areas. So
Yeah.
thank you, Alex, for your.
I guess. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Can you see that now?
Yes.
The Peninsula Ironworks. So you'll notice down here, kind of in the right at the bottom of this map, you've got a couple of samples that were taken. So I mean, this one, sample 52, looks like 21,700 micrograms per kilogram. But decently high surface level PCB concentrations that are really pretty close to where the beach sampling is going to take place. I know that DEQ and EPA were kind of working on some source control issues for the PIW site, just with respect to stormwater and recontamination of sediments in the river. But my concern is more with the PCBs on the surface. Both DEQ and City of Portland indicated that there was potentially some risk to people going to the park from these concentrations. And there was just a letter from EPA, I think in September of last year, that concurred that there were some concerns with surface PCBs there.
So this is the kind of information that needs to get looked at as part of a sufficiency assessment, which unfortunately we haven't done yet. I think, Laura, what makes sense, just because I can't speak fluently about this, except that I can tell you it isn't necessarily one of the ways that we're driving our next sampling event. But if we put this on the agenda for the next steering committee or this group meeting, I think that'd be the best way. That give me some time to
maybe August, yeah, if we prefer the August one, since you're gonna the next one that Josie's at, we'll put it on. That sounds good. Alex, could you send this along? And I guess I just want to open it up to, just if anyone else, because we have such a wealth of information on this call. Francisca, do you happen to know anything about this too? Or
Dawn?
We're done, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I know that we looked at a little from the stormwater side, but beyond that, I'd have to look into it again more as well and see who the DEQ PM was for that site. And that my understanding, the current sampling event was driven more by the in-water kind of SMA areas as opposed to the upland source control areas.
Okay, and I just wanted to bring it up because I think those initial samples were taken in like 2011, and it seems like it's on somebody's radar. I mean, right here on the screen it says EPA shares DEQ's concerns about remaining soil contamination at the site and agrees that soil remediation is likely warranted. So I just wanted to make sure that was something that was considered during all of this sampling. If I go back to the graphic, what you see here, just to the southwest of Peninsula Ironworks is actually Cathedral Park, and you'll notice the St. John's Bridge kind of in the lower right-hand corner. So, I mean, these samples were literally right there.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
we'll look into it.
This is Dawn Sanders. We had received, when we got these data, we conferred with DEQ and got a letter from DEQ that said they didn't think that it posed a risk to park users. But we referred this to DEQ, and that's why the Peninsula Iron actually got into the cleanup program. I'm not exactly sure where they are now, so it's certainly worth following up on.
Okay, yeah, it looks like they have at least addressed the source control piece. But yeah, I mean, right here, the city is concerned whether soil is contaminated with PCBs at these levels pose a significant threat to park users that would necessitate actions by the city to limit exposure to the public.
Right, and we received a letter back from DEQ saying that they didn't think that it did. So that gave us some level of comfort, but.
Okay. Well, let's maybe,
Francisca,
if you can look into any.
A can of worms, so.
Well, let's put. I think that's a great suggestion from Josie. Thanks for bringing this up, Alex. This is exactly, good, really good. So we'll put it on.
And I'll follow up and see who the DEQ PM is and be able to provide more info on that as well.
Awesome.
Okay. I didn't see anything in the record that showed the DEQ was not concerned. I mean, all I'm seeing is, what I kind of showed on the screen that looks like DEQ actually concurs that there's potential for exposure there. So.
Thank you. So Alex, if you wouldn't mind sending this, I mean, I know it's all publicly available, but since you have it handy.
Yeah,
If you,
I can
you
put
can
the
even
link
put
to
the
the
link.
stuff in the chat if that works.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, will do.
And then, yeah, Francisca and Josie, we can coordinate on following up and putting this on a future working group agenda to follow up on. So thank you. And then Josie, there's one question in the chat. I'll just quickly, I think you can take it pretty quickly. It's just Barbara was asking before we go into the next slide, you know, beyond EPA, who the long-term funder is for the cleanup, and if it would be Northwest Natural or Gasco, since it sounds like Barbara, you know, because there are PHs at the area. So basically it's a question of what, you know, who takes it over, yeah, after EPA.
Yeah. And we don't have somebody lined up to take it over yet. We are working on that through our enforcement processes. At this point, we are, yeah, there's work going on in the background, and the funding the EPA has in place is going to keep the work going through early 2022. So that's really when we're targeting to have a different agreement set up by in order for there to be a seamless transition.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share my screen again, and Josie has one more slide, and then we'll go into the educational pieces. Thank you for all the good questions, everyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the update to the QAP. So because our in-water date got pushed back, I'll admit we kind of took our foot off the gas on finalizing the QAP. There's a lot of other work happening with all the other project areas, as you can imagine, and it's all the same people doing that oversight work and building these QAPs. So at this point, we're looking at getting a final, close to final QAP done next week, but then until we actually select the analytical labs that we're going to use, we don't finalize the QAP. And just in the interest of everyone's time, I felt like it made sense to wait till it's all final, really final, and at that point distribute it with those SOPs so that you guys aren't kind of getting, it's not breadcrumbs over time, it's just one big deliverable that comes out to you probably in early August before we actually get started in the field. So that's my proposal. If folks would rather see it, you know, in chunks, we can make that happen as well.
Any questions on that? So Josie, it's going to be, it'll be final, you said in a couple weeks, probably-ish.
No, in early August.
Early August, sorry.
Because until we select the labs, and because we're using the way that EPA contracts out labs, until we're about 4 weeks out from pulling the samples, we don't actually get those. That's when we get the labs lined up. So it would be early August.
Okay. Any questions for Josie on that before we move on? So I'll actually be able to see the final SOPs in the final one, if that's okay. Okay, cool. All right. So, and thanks, Lucila, put the link to the, we have it in our record system now, the link to the comments, our EPA's responses to the William River Advocacy Group's comments, and thanks again right now, I know Laura and Mark, but a lot of other people work with RAG too. Thank you for those comments and for having Marcus take a look at that. That was really good. Okay, so educational activities. So I wanted to go through, and Lucila, if you can stop recording this now.